Welcome, Suzanne, on this great interview. I'm very happy to have you here from the other side of the world because you are in the USA. I'm in South India right now. You are in the evening, I'm in the morning. So wonderful. Tell me more about you, if you could introduce yourself and your topic.
Thank you, Kasia. I'm very passionate about this topic because I myself have had a lifelong learning about this. I was raised in a family where I was taught to take care of everybody else. And I'm also a baby boomer, so women were supposed to just take care of others. And even a psychologist in 1966, David Bacon, said, it's really impossible. You're either going after what you want or taking care of others. And I have learned throughout my life and through my coaching that that's not necessarily true. That's a little bit of an outdated theory. And what I love to help people do is go after what they want, but do it with a sense of bringing others along. So as they're growing, they're teaching and training and learning.
Great, that sounds wonderful. And so tell me more about Bacon's psychological theory.
Well, it's interesting. He was looking at folks, and I think back in the 1960s in the United States, it was a more kind of less blended, male, female role models. But he said, and this is attributed to males, that there is one kind of person who has agency, this drive to control one's life and to make things happen. And usually these people are more on their own, they're self-reliant, they can charge up mountains by themselves. And then he talked about, then there's another type of person, and that's more somebody who's interested in nurturing and attaching to others, more of a communal approach. And he said that it really wasn't possible to really do both. And I think as male-female roles have changed all over the world, we found people who can really adopt that drive of going after what they want, but again, sharing what they've learned with others and bringing people along on their way to success. And that's the model I like to help people achieve.
Yes, I think there's something true in it. I remember actually my grandmother, she was a journalist and she was also a publisher in one of the magazines. And I remember that because she had to fit in the society and she had a leading position, which was not typical in 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, her approach was very masculine. And she still has this approach. So instead of nurturing, she is very intellectual. And I think this is something that she used as a cover to hide part of her personality, because she's also a woman and probably she had babies, she had to nurture them. So I think that's what is changing, that now we can have both. It's good for men to be nurturing and connecting and be compassionate and empathetic, and it's also good for women to have to be more masculine time, and at the same time they can stay feminine.
Exactly. And, I think it's also how you balance. We can choose from this repertoire of skill sets that we have. Sometimes if we have somebody who needs a kidney in our family, we're going to go out and compete, right? But we can also sit by that family's bedside and talk to them about, maybe the relative that needs a kidney. So it really depends, I think, also on if we're conscious about the style we're using and where it's appropriate.
Great.
I think people who have a range of styles and can select those are really the most effective. And we see the people with the soft skills, I do a lot of soft skills training, who really rise in their lives because they can make this choice. They can switch between the style that they're using.
Excellent. And tell me more about high status.
Well,
it's a secret, maybe. It's a secret. I'm not going to tell you.
Is it nature or is it nurture? We just lost one of the most brilliant actors we've had in the United States, James Gandolfini. And this was a really down-home guy who liked to sit around the barbecue flipping burgers. And when he became high status, he actually couldn't tolerate, and those people who know him saw him going binging and drinking and alcohol and drugs because he was just a regular guy. I think some people, are born with more testosterone or drive, and we see this in our movie stars, and Martha Stewart playing J.C. Penney against her other contract with Macy's, and now there's a big lawsuit. So I don't know, does power go to some people's head? Are they born, with Caesar, born for power? I don't know whether it's nature or nurture, but achieving things is everything, and they're more task-oriented, and they really do feel like they deserve the world, and they're going to go out and get it. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily concerned with the people aspect of things.
Okay. So let's go to the balance high status. What's the difference?
Well, this is a group who is not as connected with the ego. They love to achieve, but again, we see them achieving for the greater good. Ellen DeGeneres, Oprah, Andrea Merkel, they're women, and there are many male. I think Bill Clinton is a good example of this type of fellow, Warren Buffett, who have really worked hard to achieve, but again, they're really interested in sharing and enlightening. Bill Gates, in his later years with Melinda Gates, with their foundation. In the beginning, it was just all about him and Microsoft. So people evolve and change into this, but they are agentic and communal. They combine that drive with also the sense about helping others. And they don't expect people, Martha Stewart once pulled up to a movie theater, and I don't want to just bash Martha Stewart, but she's a good example. She pulled up to a movie theater and there were no more tickets. And she said, "Do you know who I am? You have to let me in." And they said, "I'm sorry, there's no more tickets." And she was outraged. So the balance high status would understand that and maybe say, "Okay, let's go somewhere else." Or, who can I help get movie tickets? That would be more of a balanced high status.
Mm-hmm. Right. And occasional status.
Yes, occasional status. Well, this group really thinks of themselves as caregivers, as nurturers, and they often don't really go after their own pursuits, and they may step back and accommodate others for the sake of their relationship. And often, though, they're missing out on real profound opportunities to share their gifts, actually. And this is a group, I've worked with both groups, but I work a lot with this occasional status. And they want to do it, but they have a lot of drawbacks or fears or concerns. And it wasn't modeled to them or taught to them that this was okay to do. So they sort of need permission to have more status and to realize that it really benefits everybody when they're taking care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. And how Mother Teresa fit in this model?
Well, she's an extreme example, but it's interesting because this group shies away from the media.
Okay.
But Mother Teresa devoted her whole life to helping others, and it was really, she defined herself and how much she could give to other people. And she was not concerned with her own worldly status or possession. She really was devoted to caring for others, so much so that, she risked her life. She risked getting a fatal disease because she cared so much for others.
Yes. Now I understand. It's good to be also in balance, yes, to have to take about others, but sometimes also take about yourself, so you can live longer, maybe. And yes, right.
Yes, and we see Tony. I'm sorry. Do you mind if I add something?
Yes, sure.
So we see Tobey Maguire, the actor in Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is so busy helping everybody else, he's exhausted and wrung out. Mm-hmm. And he's not that effective because he's so tired and he's conflicted. Can I have a personal life? Can I save the world? He's a really good example of somebody who is like that, that has a hard time setting boundaries and saying no, or stepping up into their own power and say, hey, I need a night off now and then.
Yes, it comes to my mind also a typical role model of a mother in a family who has 5 children, and she has to take care of 5 children, to do the laundry, to do everything, and she doesn't have time for herself for many years. And when she's 50 and 60, there is already too late for many things, because she doesn't have proper education and she didn't have any job in her life. But she wakes up from the dream that there should be something for her, because her children are going to have their own life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, there's a way to delegate some things and, blend her time with other moms so she can have more time. I mean, you have to be creative when you have a family, but there's ways to do that if you're thinking about yourself. And also realizing in the United States, we have this saying, if mama's not happy, nobody's happy. So taking care of yourself to give more and to have more positivity and energy to give to your family.
Right. And what is the difference and how you describe the low status?
Oh, well, it's funny. We love to laugh at these people. This is central to comedy, and high status and low status figures have been central. This word status comes from actually the acting world, and we've always paired these kind of high status bullies, like, the 2.5 Men, the former Charlie, who is really just all he thinks about is himself, with his low status brother who can't get the girls, he can't hold a job, he can't hold on to money, nothing works for him. Phoebe was fumbling all through the Friends show. And these people can be victims, right? It's easier for them not to succeed and to say, oh, it's never going to happen to me, and to fumble around and stumble around. And we laugh, but, we also feel for them because they're not achieving what they want. And, I mean, many of us, want to help them get past that. And I have done that, too, quite a bit for people who feel stuck and don't feel like anything good can come to them.
Mm-hmm. I think everybody sometimes has this feeling that's of being on the low level of status. It's when we have also the opposite feeling to have a high status, but sometimes this is a feeling of being also low. That's why it's so funny for us to watch comedies because they remind us something, and we can still locate ourselves higher. So that's great. Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's jump to behavior change.
Well, it's so funny because outside the world of coaching, so many people will say, oh, I just can't do that. And, oh, that's not going to work for me. And I think the thing that really makes me the most irritated is when they say, take my advice, I'm not using it. I'm sure you as a coach hear that too.
Yes.
But the idea is to be aware. So looking at these levels of status, I work with my clients and they watch themselves as they go through the day and noticing, you could walk into if you were, giving a seminar on body language expertise, you could walk in and feel really high status. But then, I don't know, maybe you're going somewhere and you're picking out a very fancy cocktail dress and you're not a fashionista, and the saleswoman could make you feel less than important. So, it changes throughout the day, but if we notice where we're high status and where we're low status, and we're aware of that, we're able, and I've worked with dozens of people, to change their behaviors and really claim the status that's appropriate for where they are, no matter, and this, cascades throughout whatever setting they're going into.
Yes, and I think that's, if you are aware of your status and how to change it, then you can also use it with your daily activities. For example, now we are in South India, and there are many people with low status here. They are working, for example, selling coconuts and other things. And sometimes it's important also to be alike them. So forget about your high status and we be with them. So that's why you need to change also your behavior, body language, and be on the same level. This way you can communicate. And I like it very much. I was traveling around the world, also to Siberia, Tibet, and if you can also experience what is the status of the community, people we are talking with, so you can also adjust yourself, not to be too high. Because when I was just forgetting about it in India, they were charging me double money, so it's always better to be one of them, so they don't charge you double. Yes. And of course, there are many other reasons for that.
Yes, and I think for you, Kasia, you're actually demonstrating right now balanced high status because you're inviting others to your blog and you're sharing wisdom, and that's because you have an amazing connection with lots of people, but you're sharing other people's success with them all. So there you go, level 2 status.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, I believe that we should be flexible, and sometimes for example, I really need to show high status, and I know how to do that, and it's important. But in some situations, it's you just feel empathy with people, and you behave similar, and then you can really learn a lot of wonderful wisdom from them. Yes, even here in India, so wonderful meetings every day. Tell me more about steps to elevate status.
Well, most people, we have this inner critical voice, or maybe we have 3 or 4 inside our head that says you didn't do it enough, or you didn't do it right, or, far, 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 better, better, better. So one of it is to focus not on that inner critical voice, but of the strengths, and not compare ourselves to other people. Maybe somebody is highly articulate, but maybe you're not. That maybe your gifts are one-to-one, not speaking to a room full of 1,000 people. So focusing on those strengths, identifying those strengths, not trying to be orange or blue if your color is green. And also, a lot of folks that are level 3 status and level 4, they live in their fears. And I like to call fears fantasized experiences appearing real. That acronym, Byron Katie's done wonderful pieces with this.
I like
Well,
that.
Is that really true? Oh, you like Byron Katie?
I like the acronym.
Yeah, I don't know where I got that. It's very popular. I don't know where I got that from, but is it true? Are you really going to go into that meeting and everybody's going to laugh at you? Is it true that you won't get your report done? Is it true that you won't be eligible for a promotion? Or is it true that if you buy store-bought cookies, everybody's going to be upset? Really, to think about those fears and demystify them and debunk them, and to really look at what's the truth. Are those voices in my head, are they leading me to a lower status? And then practicing, taking small risks. And one thing that really helps level 3s and sometimes level 4s is I tell them, all the level 3s, everybody, if you're a level 3 and maybe a level 4, you just want to help people, right? And everybody says, yes. I say, well, go find another level 3 and they'll help you. You don't want to ask a level 1 for help, but if you find other people who are like yourself, they're the first people that will be willing to help you, and you'll get the experience of somebody really wanting to help you, and that will get you over the fear of asking for help.
Yes, that's true. Tell me more about some techniques that you can use to elevate your status. For example, emotional management methods.
Well, I want to thank you and Patrick, Kasia, because this has so changed the work I do with folks. I mean, we've spent session after session processing and talking about fears and how we could do things. And the emotional management method, in half an hour can totally, I had somebody who whose boss was really, really, just beating on her ego and telling her nothing was good, and she had a job interview, and we did a half an hour session, and she was terrified to interview and had low self-esteem, and at the end of the session she said, "I'm ready to take on the world."
Right.
So it can really reprogram those negative emotions.
Excellent. Yes, and you are part of the Hollywood movie also showing the technique in the movie. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel honored. It's a wonderful technique, and it really has speeded up the coaching process with folks. I had a manager who was promoted into a new role, and she was terrified that she would make mistakes, and again, level 3 and sometimes level 4. And again, after doing the work and looking at her fears and doing the emotional management method, we had 3 sessions together, and now she is just as happy and confident and focused on that position. And she writes me all the time, and she goes, "Guess what I did today? Guess what I did today? I stood up in a meeting." And so it really doesn't have to be a lengthy process, but it has to be a focused process.
Right. Thank you so much. Tell me more about recommended reading and how people can find you.
Well, I love the book. This is from the Center for Creative Leadership in North Carolina in the United States. But Standing at the Crossroads, Next Steps for High-Achieving Women, talks a lot about this agentic versus communal. If you're struggling between those two and how does that show up for you, that's a great book. Also, Women Don't Ask, looking at the high cost of that and Strategies for Change by Linda Babcock and Sarah Leschinger. Again, excellent books. And of course, you can always sign up for my newsletter. I have a lot of more information about self-empowerment. You can certainly go to my website. You'll see a video of me doing a news spot about shutting down and avoiding technology overload. Read some news articles in the Boston Globe.
So when people would like to learn more about you, Suzanne, they can go to SuzanneBlake.com and they will find all the information. Thank you, Suzanne, for a wonderful interview. And have a great evening.
Thank you. And you have a wonderful high-status day.
Thank you. Have a wonderful high-status night. Right.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.